Welcome to today's Explainer. You know that daunting New Year's resolution? The one where we swear we're going to read a book a week, 52 books a year, only to crash and burn by like mid-February? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're diving into something called the Buffett method. It's basically a masterclass in high-leverage reading. Let's get right into it.
Seriously, I want you to think about it for a second. How many unread books are just sitting on your shelf right now? 10? 20? Maybe they're propping up your monitor, or just languishing by the hundreds in some digital graveyard on your Kindle. Look, if just hearing that question gave you a tiny pang of guilt, don't worry, we've all been there. This is the universal trap for those of us who love to learn. We have this immense, burning desire to gather knowledge, but our execution, well, it gets completely bottlenecked by a pretty flawed approach to the actual act of reading itself.
And what happens is, it turns our bookshelves into what is painfully known as a museum for unread trophies. Think about it, we buy these incredibly dense, amazing nonfiction books, put them proudly on a pedestal, and then we literally just look at them. We display them as if somehow just owning the physical book is the exact same thing as actually possessing the knowledge inside it, right? It's kind of a painful mindset because it turns these incredible resources into literal monuments to our own procrastination. To actually conquer your reading goals, we have to completely tear down this museum. We've got to change our relationship with books from treating them like sacred objects to treating them like the practical tools they actually are.
Now, when that reading guilt sets in, a lot of us immediately pivot to these false promises, right? Speed reading hacks. We've all seen the gurus online claiming, oh, you can read a whole book in an hour, just track your finger faster, or, just stop sub-vocalizing the words in your head. But the source material is explicitly clear on this. Those hacks actually do not work. You're basically just sacrificing real comprehension for the illusion of speed. The true secret isn't about moving your eyeballs quicker. It's about high-leverage reading. This is the strategy that actually works, and honestly, the core philosophy behind it is incredibly liberating.
Okay, let's dive into this, because here is a rather shocking realization. About 80% of most nonfiction books is literally just fluff and filler. It's true. Authors often have to hit these massive word counts for their publishers. So what could be a brilliant, punchy 20-page idea gets stretched out into this 300-page marathon of repeated anecdotes and endless preambles. The absolute gold is hiding in that remaining 20%. Those are your high-leverage chapters. This is where the actual meat of the book lives, the core frameworks, the hard data, the actionable insights you actually bought the book for. So high-leverage reading is really just the fine art of ignoring the massive filler and exclusively targeting that super valuable 20%.
But to actually pull this off, you're going to need a bit of a psychological reset. Consider this your ultimate permission slip. You are, quote, legally allowed to skip. I absolutely love how the source material uses this specific phrasing because it gives you absolute, undeniable permission to just ignore the fluff. Think about it. So many of us have been totally conditioned since what? Grade school? To believe that reading a book means you have to start at page 1 and read every single syllable until the final glossary. But look, you're an adult now. You are learning for efficiency. So yes, you are legally allowed to skip the author's 20-page rambling story about their summer vacation if it doesn't serve the core thesis. You can literally just turn the page.
And this exact paradigm shift, this is the entire foundation of the buffet method. When you walk into an all-you-can-eat buffet, you don't start at the very first tray and, force yourself to eat the ice under the tongs and then the parsley garnishes and then 6 bread rolls before you're finally allowed to touch the prime rib. No way. You scan the room, you find the exact high-value items you actually came for, you consume those, and you leave the rest behind. The buffet method demands that you treat your books the exact same way. A book is simply a resource. It is a buffet of ideas, and you are there to strictly extract the exact value you need right now. Nothing more, nothing less.
Let's move to and see how this builds. So how do we actually put this into practice? It's a really simple 3-step extraction process. Step 1 is your gateway. Read professional summaries. Seriously, before you even crack the spine of the book, read a summary to get a map of the train. You want to understand the core arguments before you dive in. And this perfectly sets up Step 2. Identify the 20% high-leverage chapters. Because you already read the summary, you now know exactly which chapters hold the prime rib, right? You know exactly where the author hid the ultimate value. And then Step 3, honestly the most important part, skip the rest. Skip the fluff. You go in, extract the 20%, and you close the book. Boom. You have successfully conquered it.
But wait, what happens when you target that golden 20% and it turns out to be, well, a massive disappointment? That brings us to your ultimate defense mechanism, the 10-page rule. What's really interesting about this slide is how it serves as a tool to ruthlessly protect your energy. Look, even with the best summaries and the absolute best intentions, sometimes a book is just a slog. The writing is incredibly dry, or maybe the concepts just aren't resonating with you. The 10-page rule dictates that if a book hasn't grabbed you, or if you aren't finding that high leverage value within the first 10 pages of your targeted reading, you drop it. This number, 10, is your ultimate defense mechanism as a focused learner.
The rule here is incredibly simple, but absolutely crucial. Kill boring books before they kill your motivation. I can't stress this enough. Protecting your enthusiasm for learning is infinitely more important than just suffering through a bad resource so you can brag that you finished it. When you force yourself to trudge through a boring book, what happens? You start avoiding reading altogether. Your motivation completely dies. That museum of unread trophies just keeps growing because your brain starts associating reading with a terrible chore. By ruthlessly abandoning those boring books, you keep your momentum high, your mind stays completely engaged, and your path to conquering those 52 books a year stays totally unobstructed.
So we've moved from guilt to pure empowerment, from those silly speed reading illusions to true high-leverage extraction. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Which unread trophy will you carve up at the buffet today? Go on, take a look at your shelf right now. Pick just one of those monuments to procrastination. But whatever you do not read it cover to cover. Find a summary, locate that 20% high-leverage meat. Give yourself full legal permission to skip the fluff and extract the exact value you deserve. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy reading.